Hey YouTube, I've been focusing a lot on color zones of the face recently, so I want to make a quick video. Color zones kind of give you a roadmap to help you better depict skin tone because it's so infinitely variable. So our three general zones are going to be yellow on the forehead, red in the cheek area, and then blue on the chin. And while this is a good roadmap, I don't know too many people that look like this. So let's break down those zones in a way that makes a little bit more intuitive sense. So I like to think of these three areas as blood, flesh, and shadow. So for our blood area, this is going to be anywhere that gets kind of red and rosy during cold weather. This is because the blood rushes to the surface of the skin and changes that coloring. Now those areas are always going to be a little bit more pinky, it's just that it's more pronounced when it's cold. We can also include the lips in this kind of category, just because that skin's typically thinner and we usually get a lot more coloring there. That redness is also more pronounced depending on the person's melanin levels, so if you have a very fair skinned person, you'll get a lot more of those pinks, whereas a darker skinned person, it'll be a little bit more subtle. Now obviously we're going with some crazy vibrant zones right now just to demonstrate the point. So when you actually apply this into your own work, you do want to take a very light hand. Color goes a long way. So don't worry about trying to really make something pronounced in red. You're just looking at subtle shifts in the skin tone, and you're trying to depict those to the best of your ability. Now for the yellow zones of the face, I like to think of these as kind of the fleshy zones. And I say fleshy instead of like bone or fat because this area does kind of span both of those categories, and it overlaps with the red a lot. So typically you can think of the forehead, the side planes of the nose, and a little bit underneath the mouth as like the general yellow zones of the face. Yellow is kind of a undertone for areas that don't have a lot of blood, but also aren't in shadow, so they don't have a cool undertone. And you see this as kind of like the filler, because flesh typically has a little bit more of a yellow hue to it just naturally. So this will be used throughout the face in a larger quantity. And when we compare it to the areas of the face that are red, we can kind of see this overlap in this give and take. Now for people that have a little bit more fat content to their face, you're going to have less areas of red and more areas of yellow, because the blood isn't going to be able to saturate that tissue as much. And our final color zone of the face is going to be blue, or as I like to think of it, as the shadow zone. Now a little bit of this is due to light theory, because natural light is always going to be on the yellow spectrum, so our shadows are always going to be on the cool spectrum, or in a little bit more blue. But there are actually zones of the face that lean more blue. The sides of the head and underneath the eyes lean more blue, but also so does the entire chin region. And the reason why this leans more blue, especially in men, is because of their undergrowth of their beard. Drag queens are actually a really prime example of how to neutralize blue in the face. You'll see a lot of them put like an orange foundation or something on their jaw area, and that's helping to neutralize the color of their beard, so it looks more feminine. You can also get a lot of blue in a skin tone if the individual you're depicting has a high melanin level. So very dark skin has a more bluish undertone to it. And it's interesting because it's not like a purple, it's almost like a true indigo, and it's really beautiful once you learn how to paint that realistically. For demonstration purposes, we're going to do a light skin tone in this video, just so you can see the color zones a little bit easier. So now that we've got the color zones of the face established, I'll go in and further refine them. Even at this stage though, you can see that it offers us a little bit more life than just our flat gray value scale rendering. And that's going to be because it's informed and a little bit closer to reality. And even if you don't want to work really realistically, I would suggest you learn the color zones of the face, because you can apply them in a more stylized manner, which I'll show towards the end of the video. Now, as I'm refining these color zones, there are a few things that I want to bring your attention to. Membranes typically run more red, so that's going to be your waterline, your lips, your ears, the edges of your nose. Anything where the skin is a little bit translucent and can catch the light will reflect more red. The other thing is that the color zones are not consistent throughout certain areas. So you'll see that I've desaturated the area on the nose and parts of the forehead just to build in a little bit more variance. because flat, consistent color is always going to read flat. Now, because I'm working in Photoshop, there are a few fun things I can do with layers to help me along my coloring process. By using a vivid light layer on top of my color layers, I can get a lot of variance in a skin tone really quickly. So here, I'm just kind of brushing in that base layer and adjusting a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, depending on the zones of the face. I can also change the opacity of each of those layers. That way I can pull back the reds a little bit or bump up the blues and experiment a little bit more. When we turn off some of those color layers, we can see that our face becomes a lot more flat and a lot less dynamic. I'm going to use that built-in color variation to color pick a few colors and finish rendering out this portrait. Now, while the color zones are great for realistic depiction, you can also riff off of them to do some fun color variants. So here I'll share a few color pencil portraits that I did, still focusing on the color zones of the face, but in a much more graphic, in my opinion, interesting style. And you'll notice that I still keep my warm tones in those warm areas, my blues around the chin. I'm still adhering to the law of the color zones of the face. I'm just exaggerating them and changing them up a little bit. And for me, this is really how I like to approach the art fundamentals. So things like light theory, color zones of the face, those kind of inalienable laws of nature when it comes to depicting realism. You have to learn them so you know how to tweak them and make them better. So I hope you enjoyed this quick video on the color zones of the face, and if you found it beneficial, throw me a like so I know, and if you want to see any of my other content, feel free to subscribe. Thanks, bye!